looking at the most luxurious Ford Ranger you can buy. It's the Ford Ranger Platinum, and Ford won't make you forget because they put it right there on the hood. Now, taking a page from the F-150, the Platinum is now the most luxurious Ranger you can buy. It sits above the Wildtrak, which is the off-road focused Ranger, and it sits below the hardcore off-roader known as the Ranger Raptor. And so if you have over $80,000 to burn on a Ford Ranger and you don't want something as ludicrous as a Ranger Raptor, and you also don't want something as off-road focused as a Ranger Wildtrak, well, you can buy this, the Ranger Platinum, which is perfect for people who want all the practicalities of a Ranger, but also want all the comfort of a luxury car. Now, the Platinum is available in Equinox Bronze, which is this color you see here. It's a $700 option, and to be honest, it would be my pick of the paints that you can get for the Ford Ranger Platinum. You also get these platinum badging up front, the satin chrome all around the exterior. You've also got these standard LED matrix lights, which look quite good. Ford will throw in 20-inch wheels, which makes this look a bit more premium than a normal Ranger. And you've also got V6 badging in that satin chrome. Another platinum badge down below here, some side steps. You've also got more satin chrome around the window trim. You have these big roof rails as well, which are very practical. And you're of course getting keyless locking and unlocking as well. Now you get really nice painted wheel arches as well in black, which contrasts nicely with this paint here. Of course, you can see there's plenty of ground clearance. This is fitted with leaf springs and not shocks like you'll find on the Ranger Raptor, so you get your full towing and payload capacities, which is quite nice. You get disc brakes on the rear, but here's a little party trick for the Ford Ranger Platinum. It's known as Ford's flexible rack system. So this sports bar you see here, which gives this a nice bit of visual flair, is also practical. So you see there's a lever here which you can pull on, and with one hand you can just bring this all the way to where you need to on the back here, and you can actually give yourself an extra extension for the roof, which means you can load this up with longer items, and thanks to a little clip up here, you pull this side and it will give you a roof bar, which gives you a nice level surface from the roof all the way to this flexible rack system. Now this thing can hold up to 80 kilos when you're driving in a dynamic setting, but when you're static, it can hold up to 250 kilos, which is good enough for a roof tent system if you want to do that. It's really easy to put away, but something that I find kind of funny is that if you do see a Ford Ranger Platinum out on the road, just parked by the side, there's nothing stopping anyone just having a play with it while it's just sitting there parked, because it doesn't lock with the car and this doesn't have any sort of locking mechanisms that are easily accessible for you to lock before you walk away. But it does lock securely in place, so when you're driving, it shouldn't be an issue at all. And that is one of the most clever solutions I've seen for a ute that makes it a proper alternative for something like the Ford Everest or any other SUVs. You can still have a nice practical load on the roof and also make the use of the tray. Now you get another platinum badge at the back here, a 4x4 badge, and of course Ranger embossed right there into the metal. And when you open this tailgate, which does lock with the car, it's dampened. So that's a very luxurious tailgate compared to something like you find on other Rangers. Now jumping into the back's pretty easy. This does allow you to sit on it to get in the back. You've also got little areas to put clamps if you want to clamp down any wood to cut on the back here. And you've also got auxiliary power in the form of a 12-volt socket. But you've also got side steps here, which are easy to use to get into the back, and you've got more satin chrome around the rear bumper. And in the back here, you still have the practical amount of load space, and of course, you do have an electronic cover here, which also is something that locks and keeps everything secure for when you're parked and away from your ute. Now in the back of the Ranger Platinum, there isn't anything too special. There's some white stitching, some silver accenting around the door handles, and then really you just have your USB-C, USB-A charging ports, and that's about it. There's very nice leather here in the back though, which is something I can very much appreciate, and it feels very comfortable, although you do have to work a bit to get a bit more knee room, but feet room is okay and headroom's all right. And then the headrests here come up a bit stiff, but they're going to be okay for 4 people to travel comfortably. You also do have ISOFIX points in the back here, and you do have a center armrest. Now it's really easy jumping into the Ranger Platinum, and the way you you're going to tell other people that you drive a Ranger Platinum is that it says it here on the door sills, and it also says it on the carpets, both in the front and in the back. Closing this, you can see the faux wood trim that goes around the dashboard and on the doors. You also have another Platinum badge up here with more white stitching and softer materials around the top of the dashboard, but there's still some scratchy plastics further up. I've already done a deep dive into several Rangers and their interiors, which you can see floating above my head. Those are some other Ford Ranger reviews I've done, so I'm not going to go into a deep dive in the screen here, although I will mention I love this vertical screen. It's the best in the industry. It is so useful and it just feels so modern in here. I like the silver accenting and black around the air vents here, which are quite nice and they feel very premium. You've also got nice hard buttons as well, more white stitching around your center console and of course your little middle compartment here. You've also got a 12-volt socket in there as well, more white stitching around your leather wrapped steering wheel, and of course a digital gauge cluster, which is one of the headlining features for the Ford Ranger Platinum. And of course you have Platinum on your seats here, which are in this beautiful leather and they are so comfortable, and you of course get auxiliary little switches above your head here, so you still get all those practical things you always expect from the new Ford Ranger. You're also getting heating and ventilation for the front seats, and you're also getting heating around the steering wheel, and you also get the upgraded Bang & Olufsen sound system in here. Now, I just really love the Ford Ranger Platinum because it's for people who want everything that the Ford Ranger offers and luxury amenities like these seats and leather bits and pieces, stitching and all that sort of stuff, and of course like LED lights and nicer wheels, but don't want to compromise on the practicalities of the new Ford Ranger, because the Ranger Raptor will compromise, but it compromises for other reasons, where this is still a proper Ford Ranger ute that can do all the things that the Ford Ranger promises, like its top-end towing capacity and payload and off-roading ability. It isn't compromised that way, which I think is really quite cool. So you have a luxurious vehicle which you can drive day to day and really enjoy, and then when you want to go on longer trips, go off-road and off the beaten track, that's something that the Ford Ranger Platinum can still do very well. Now, I'm more interested in how the Ford Ranger Platinum drives on the road, because off-road I've tested many Rangers, and again, you can see those reviews on this channel, but here I'm just sort of quickly going over how this thing performs on the road, because this is the intention of the existence of the Ford Ranger Platinum, is to exist mainly on the road and then, you know, still be capable off-road and doing all sorts of towing and all that. So as a ute that's primarily made for going on road and still has leaf springs on the rear which aren't loaded up, which means they should be pretty bouncy, this actually does an amazing job of having a very comfortable ride. It's honestly one of the most comfortable utes I've driven and tested, because it's just so plush. Even though it's riding on 20-inch wheels, it's so plush at being able to sort of handle bumps and curves in the road, and it's nice and stable at high speeds as well, which I absolutely adore, and it gives you plenty of confidence to throw this big tall ute through corners and then just coasting along the pavement here. It's not a problem. I'm not bouncing around. It's really quite comfortable. Now, obviously compared to something like an SUV, it's going to be, you know, a little bit more bumpy, but it's really not noticeable at all. I really love the cruise control features in here. You got auto lane keep assist, all that sort of stuff. And forgive me for the mark on the t-shirt, a horse sneezed on me. And then as we're driving through here on some rough sections of road noise is pretty minimal, so you can really enjoy just like a quiet cabin. And the speaker system here is okay, even though it's Bang & Olufsen, it doesn't really sound as good as the same Bang & Olufsen system that you'll find. Now, the Bang & Olufsen system in here is pretty good, but it's nowhere near as good as the Bang & Olufsen system in the nearly $300,000 Audi S8 I tested. Now, the engine performance here is very good. I love the 10-speed gearbox in the new Ranger as well. It's just so relaxed. It's never straining for power or gears, and 600 Newton meters is plenty for going around town. It's pretty economical as well. I found myself not drinking a whole bunch of fuel, even though it's a big 3-liter V6 twin turbo diesel. And look, it's very comfortable in traffic. The brake feel is good as well because we don't have drums on the rear. It just feels like there's more control, so it doesn't feel as lurchy. So if I go to slam the brakes on now, feels like we can stop pretty quickly, considering we just have a proper set of brakes on this ute. Now, this fastest section of road up through here, the thing with the steering is it just feels a bit dead, a bit numb, because, you know, it's not really a performance car by any means, so it just sort of feels a bit floaty. And then as you sort of lay into the throttle a bit, there's plenty of power there, and that's why the V6 is obviously the pick of the range for many people buying a new Ranger Raptor. Now, that rear, it just feels so stable. It just feels very confidence inspiring, and I would love to do lots of kilometers in this ute, and I could easily see myself buying one of these instead of an SUV if you want something that, you know, maybe looks better than an SUV and also just offers a lot more practicality in terms of just like keeping things outside the cabin if you don't want to share your cabin with whatever you're bringing in the back, say dogs or, you know, anything maybe for a farm. And then obviously your towing capacity is quite good in here as well. It's just a brilliant ute. I love the digital display here for the driver. It's really quite nice and very lovely to look at. And the big screen here is very useful as well. Wireless Apple CarPlay makes this just one of the easiest utes to jump in and out of. Love that as well. It's very responsive. And the accent lighting in here at night just feels a bit more special than a normal sort of Ranger. And this really does feel like a proper Platinum product. So if we're trying to go for something that's a bit more luxurious than a standard Ranger, and it feels more, you know, focused for the road, and it does give you a luxury experience, which I really quite like. And look, the soft materials up here on the doors is quite nice to rest your hand on, and the soft materials to look at here on the dashboard all are very nice, and the seats are just so comfortable as well. This is a higher riding ute, so it's going to be a bit harder for small people to get in and out of this, but that's really not a massive problem. The turning circle is brilliant here as well. As you can see, it just can spin around quite well, and parking's easy thanks to that 360-degree parking camera. So I found this thing to be really quite easy to live with, and even parking in the inner city wasn't much of a challenge either for this thing. And that's why I would probably look to buy one of these instead of a Ranger Raptor if I was living in the city most of the time, because Ranger Raptor is just a bit wide for the city. And then this thing you can park quite easily in some spots on a tighter street because it's just a bit more narrower. And yes, we have plenty of range in our fuel tank as well, like up to 700, 800 kilometers. So this thing will just keep on driving, which is great. And it's going to be the perfect vehicle to take on adventures and also live with on a day-to-day basis if you like a luxury type car. And so yeah, it's really hard to fault this thing. I think what I love the most is the motor. That 3-litre V6 twin turbo diesel is great in every single Ford product that has it, and here it's no different. And I think that's what really makes this ute. I think if you put a 4-cylinder in it, it might not feel so great, but the V6 just feels a lot more buttery and just a lot more smooth. Now, the Americans got it right a while ago. They realized that Americans love their trucks and their utes, and they wanted to make a luxury offering, which they've done successfully overseas with things like the F-150 Platinum. Now, the Ford Ranger Platinum is here. Ford Australia is testing the waters to see, do Australians really want a luxury ute like this? I love the Ford Ranger Raptor. I'd buy one in a heartbeat, but it is a bit hard to live with. The Ford Ranger Platinum was far more pleasant to live with. This diesel motor is silky smooth. It's great. It's quiet. It does everything you need it to do. You've also got all the luxury amenities on the inside, and you have the confidence knowing that this isn't compromised in its towing, payload, or off-road ability just because it's a bit more luxurious. And to be honest, I would buy this over the Ford Everest any day just because I prefer the looks of it, and you know, I'm just not a big SUV guy. But if you do need 7 seats and you want a bit more room in the second row, then you should buy the Everest Platinum and not the Ranger. But if you think you have enough room in the second row and you want a tray and you do like that flexible rack system, well, the Ford Ranger Platinum is my top pick for you then. But if you do more off-roading and you want something a bit more hardcore but not as hardcore as the Ranger Raptor, then you shouldn't get this. Just jump into a Wildtrak or the new Wildtrak X and you'd be more happy with that because that's more off-road ready than this is. Now, thank you so much for watching. My name's Cameron. This has been Product Review Cars. Make sure you review your own car on productreview.com.au to let everyone know what it's like to own your car. If you want to see more car content, follow us on TikTok and Instagram at Product Review Cars, and I'll see you in the next one.